We're recording.
Cool. Welcome everybody. This is the Cluster API Azure Provider Office Hours meeting. Today is February 18, 2021. Um, so this is the Kubernetes community project. So we follow the Kubernetes community guidelines, which is basically be kind to each other. If you want to add any topics to discussion, please add them to the agenda doc. And if you need access to the agenda doc, please add yourself to the Cluster Lifecycle mailing group. Um, yeah, so let's get started. Is anybody joining here for the first time who would like to introduce themselves? Okay, so moving on to the open discussion topics. Cecile, do you want to go?
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to make a quick PSA that we had some updates to the owners file since last meeting. Notably, Stephen, Augustus, and Michelle were moved to emeritus since they both haven't had time to focus on the project lately. And with that, I just wanted to say if anyone is interested in moving up the maintainer ladder and wants to become a reviewer, we definitely have room for that. So talk to me and we can make that happen.
Um, does anybody else have anything to comment on this?
Yeah, I would be maybe interested in that. So should I ping you? I can ping you later.
Yeah, let's talk.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Cool. Nader, do you want to talk about the patch release?
Yeah, I just want another quick PSA just to mention that a new patch release with a couple of bug fixes was released last week. So after the last meeting, so it's just out. We were not planning on doing another 4 release, but there's like 2 bugs that needed to be in, so it should be there if anybody needs to use it.
Does anyone else have anything to say on this topic?
Thank you for the bug fixers.
Okay, Nader, it's you again.
Can you click on this issue? This issue was in CAPI and Fabrizio pinged the providers. I just put it up here to see if it's something I don't think it's something we need to like do anything about right away, but just to keep an eye on. It's about using like the CSI, like the Azure Disk and Azure File CSI drivers instead of like the entry ones. Eventually that's change is going to happen. So is there anything for us to be prepared or any like prep work we need to do or something? I wasn't sure, so just wanted to bring it up. If anybody has more information about it. I don't think it's been discussed in the CAPI meeting yet, so maybe we can wait for that, but just something to be aware of. We have an issue in our repo about using the out of tree drivers, but nobody has ever worked on it, I don't think. That's it. I don't have anything else to say.
I can add, so we don't currently install drivers by default or in like anything like that actually, except for the CNI. So I'd be curious to know, like, it'd be nice if we can align with other providers. Yeah, I don't know if someone was planning on bringing it up at the CAPI office hours, but we should probably do that just to know what others are planning. And like, I don't know if this would be an appropriate use case for a cluster resource set, or if it's just a matter of documenting like this is what you should use, because right now we don't have a good way to say like install this thing by default after the cluster is provisioned.
Okay, I can ask Fabrizio if he's going to bring it up, or I can bring it up in the CAPI meeting and see. Take it from there.
Yeah, we do have an end-to-end test which uses this, and it installs it, you know, after like in Bash. So.
Cool. Is there anything else? Anybody else want to talk about this topic? Okay. Cecile, failing Windows plus VMSS test.
Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of you have started noticing this on your PRs. There's this so we have a few flakes right now happening. There's one that we got to the root cause of and we disabled the test. It ended up being a platform issue. That fix is almost rolled out, so we're enabling the test again. There's a PR open for it. And then there's another one, which is the IPv6 remote client failure. We haven't gone to the bottom of that one yet. There's an open issue for it. But this one is a new one that just started happening, I think, like this week. I've seen it a lot this week. I don't know if it was happening before, but it's with with Windows and with one VMSS pool. And basically, I think the symptom is just the VMSS, the scale set never finishes to create, or it times out before it finishes creating. And David, I know, had commented on the issue saying that he has a lead on that, but I'm curious, you know, if anyone else has thoughts on it or has seen anything related to that.
Is this like different from the E2E test that were failing earlier, like a couple of weeks before?
Yeah, this is different. The other one, it was provisioning the cluster fine. It was just the load balancer was Azure cloud provider was failing to like ensure the load balancer. But in this case, it's not even provisioning the cluster because the scale set doesn't get created properly. I'm not sure why we're seeing this with Windows specifically, though. So something weird is going on. Anyways, if no one has any thoughts, that's okay. We can investigate, but just wanted to raise awareness here at least. If you see that happening, it's not related to your change.
I can help take a look at that too.
Okay.
I think David was raising his hand, and James, we can hear you very well. You're very quiet.
Yeah, sorry. I was, and for whatever reason, I couldn't find the raise hand button. So I am kind of. I had some questions, and I noticed that Windows provisions machine pools with a shorter name, and that was kind of a weird thing where node references weren't lining up with machine names. And this is something that came up more in the machine pool to machines, individual machines PR. That was showing up, and then the other side was a delay in actually finding the bootstrap data. So I was witnessing about a 10-minute delay between finding the secret actually being there, delaying after the control plane had come up. So control plane comes up and then it waits and it doesn't see the data, bootstrap data secret. And then it's done reconciling. And I think like 10 minutes later, it hits like a timed reconcile or something. And then it picks up on the data secret is there. So I don't know why this wouldn't have been showing up before. It might just be a timing thing, and some dependency changed or Azure changed or something, and our timing is just not right anymore. Really, it just needs to be deterministic. Like we need to have a watch for that secret. When the secret changes, we get that notification, we reconcile again. Something along these lines. Definitely needs investigation though.
Sounds good. It's definitely a timing thing because it doesn't happen all the time even now. So, or something that's inconsistent.
Do we want to create a separate issue to track this, or is that already one?
Oh yeah, sorry. The link is weird, but I was supposed to be the link to the issue. I'll paste the right link.
I tried to capture the notes, but I wasn't keeping up very well. So if you find anything I missed, please add it.
Okay. Is there anything else that we want to discuss about this topic? I see few chat. Matt, do you want to talk about updating Cave's patch builds?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, this is pretty trivial, but since someone here might be interested in jumping on the patch builds that came out yesterday, I'll just update you because I'm running the build, so Cecile doesn't have to literally do everything for us. So 1.18.16 is out, but we haven't, and the bill went successfully, but we haven't pushed the offer out, so you can't see it. 1.19.8 needs to be rebuilt, and I have a question about that, but maybe I should just pursue it with Cecile offline. And then 1.23 had some issues and isn't actually out quite yet, and may get superseded by 120.4. It's kind of hard to tell. I was looking at the SIG release this morning. So anyway, probably the first two patches will release today, assuming 120.3 is going to take longer. And I'll just follow up with Cecile later. It looks like running the build twice in a row is shooting itself in the foot, so it's probably a simple fix. That's all.
Cool. Thanks.
Is this, what exactly do you have to do? And is there any where we like have steps, so if somebody doesn't know how to do it can do that?
No, so this is we're using the pipelines are all published in the image builder repo. So anyone can like publish their own images, but this is publishing them to the prod subscription.
Okay.
So you need to have access to that for the reference images. But that being said, and we've tried to make this clear in documentation recently, but these images are not meant for users to use in production. They're meant for providing a reference and being used in our testing. So really, people should be building their own images. And I think if anyone has trouble with that, or if it's unclear how to do it, please tell us, because we want to make it easy for you to do that.
Yeah.
But this is not automated, like as a proud job that can just pick this up and like go publish that?
Not right now.
Is it
no.
something?
Someone needs to like hit the button and say build this.
Yeah.
It's like one pipeline button, but you still need to hit it manually. It's not triggered.
Cecile's got it super streamlined, but someone has to babysit it still.
That's the next step. I haven't gone to it, but ideally I want to do this like GitOps based, where we have like a list of versions in our repo, and then whenever a version gets added, it triggers the build, so anyone can check in the new versions or something like that.
Cool. Any other questions about the patches? Otherwise, I've got the next topic as well. So last time we met, I was talking about I started a proof of concept, at least for an AZ CLI extension that would wrap up all our CAPZ behavior and make things simpler. I have that in an Azure repo right now, but it's private because I'm not entirely sure if there's more hoops to jump through before I turn on the public toggle. But I just want to let you know it's still in progress and nothing's really happening, and I intend to have this group here review it. It's not an inside baseball Microsoft thing. I'm just trying to make sure that that it's okay with our legal department, basically, to make it public, and then we can all take a look at it.
Can you do a demo for us? Not like right now, eventually.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, I could maybe, well, I'm not sure I have anything right now, but yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, certainly by the next meeting, I hope to just have it be a public repo, and then we can look at it and send PRs, et cetera.
Cool.
If we think it's valuable.
We're looking forward to it. Sounds exciting.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. Nicola, do you want to talk about adopting AKS machine?
Yeah, so I have an experiment going on, and today I've managed to have a first working POC. So with the PR that I have currently open, I have managed to adopt an existing AKS cluster. So what I did basically is create an AKS cluster with current CAPZ support that there is for AKS. And after that, I basically deleted management cluster, which was a local kind in my case, in my tests. And after doing that, I recreated a brand new management cluster where I just created the same CRs that are describing the same AKS cluster. That was, in this case, an existing AKS cluster that was already in Azure. And the controllers basically started reconciling it. I managed to add a node pool, so it's working. It got added to the AKS cluster. I'm not sure what can be changed at the moment with the current support level in CAPZ, but I was wondering, so I have an issue opened in CAPZ repo, and I would like that this is supported in some end-to-end test, but as I understood Cecile, currently there is no end-to-end test for AKS at all. So I guess we first need some kind of basic end-to-end for simple creation to begin with. And then would it be a good idea, could we add an end-to-end test for supporting the adoption scenario?
Yeah, let's definitely start with the simple basic create scenario. And then I think for adding the end-to-end test, yeah, let's add it. We might not run this on every PR though. We're starting to hit a bit of a high number of clusters that get created per PRs, which is slow and expensive. But we do have the same thing with the GPU node pools where we don't want to do that on every PR, but we have it as the end-to-end test full suite. So we can run that on post submits and periodically. I think we should do the same for adopting AKS, maybe.
Okay, cool. Sounds good for now, yeah.
One question, so you said once it's adopted, it gets reconciled. Does that mean it also gets deleted if you delete the CRD?
Well, I believe with the current implementation, it does. I actually did that in my test, so we would probably need to do something if we want not to delete the cluster when the CR is deleted.
Yeah, I think that'd be something maybe that needs to be thought through because we have similar-ish scenarios like bring your own VNet, and it's like by principle, like if we don't create it, we don't own it, so we don't delete it. But that also means we don't manage its lifecycle. So if the goal of this is to manage its lifecycle, then you kind of have to like take ownership of it. So it'd have to be, clear that that's what that's doing.
I mean, in my test, basically, the existing cluster just started being managed by CAPZ, and it started behaving just like any other AKS cluster that was initially created by CAPZ.
Yeah. Right. And what's the use case for that? I'm just curious, like, is it because it's easier to manage AKS clusters via CRDs?
No, well, maybe, I'm not sure, but the use case is that basically if somebody has an existing AKS cluster that was created in whatever way, either with ARM templates or however, and they want to start using cluster API and CAPZ, this way they would be able to just reconcile the existing clusters with some existing workload with newly deployed management clusters. So there is no need to migrate workload, which in some cases can be difficult or even borderline impossible.
Okay. I wonder if we should start with like a small proposal for this, just because like it's bringing a new concept of adopting clusters, which Cluster API has tried to stay away of before. And I think the AKS case is different, so I don't think it's, but I think we should still, what do you think?
I opened Yeah, I opened an issue in CAPZ repo, so I selected kind proposal, so I don't know if that fits. I believe you commented on it.
What do others think? Nate or David?
Maybe like a quick proposal, like a small one as like a PR, and then we can discuss, like just to explain the benefit of it and how it's going to work and things like that. Not like super detailed, but just something, and then we can talk about it and then go from there.
Okay, I can do that, yeah.
What's good about doing that is that then it's checked into the repo as a doc. And so we can point to it for future history. If people ask like, oh, what is this? We can say like, look at this. Whereas like a GitHub issue is more like ephemeral. Once it's closed, no one looks at it.
Okay, cool. I'll do that then. Thanks.
Thanks, Nicole. Can you also add a link to the issue in this document for future?
Yeah, sure, I will.
Thank you. Is there anything else that anybody want to talk on this topic? Okay. David, do you want to talk about serverless workloads?
Sure. I would be delighted to. So Cecile and I started hacking on some stuff last Friday, just an experiment to see if we could start building ACI infrastructure. So we started down the path of trying to just run a node within ACI and just do like the bootstrap just as an Ubuntu node. And we quickly ran into Docker and Docker problems. And since ACI doesn't allow us to run any privileged workloads, we had to kind of figure out something different. So we went down the path of perhaps using, starting up a container instance with virtual kubelet. And virtual kubelet, I'm not sure if folks are know much about the project, but basically it starts up a kubelet interface with basically like a kubeconfig, and it takes pod workloads and it'll run them on different infrastructure. So one of the infrastructure providers is ACI, ACI being Azure Container Instance. An Azure Container Instance will, given some workload requests, so like CPU and memory, run a container workload in a serverless manner. So we start, hitting all the buzzwords like cloud native, serverless, boom, boom, and just like, hit the Gartner list there. Anyway, it seems like it could be pretty cool. It's kind of an experiment right now. I'm curious if people are interested in it, if it kind of makes sense. Basically, the way it's structured is we have a Kubernetes machine, or I'm sorry, a CAPI machine, and then we associate the infrastructure reference with a Azure Container Instance machine. That Azure Container Instance machine has a bootstrap or a kubeadm config, or the machine has a kubeadm config, and it works just like a regular Azure machine. Still need to get some of the bootstrapping to work correctly with VK, but after we get VK up, we should see a node join to the cluster with basically infinite resources. And so you can just run serverless workloads on that infrastructure. I'm sure there's going to be some goofiness around networking and some other stuff, but this is kind of a fun, fast way to perhaps run workloads without having to build VM infrastructure. Any questions?
Would this work similarly like AKS does it for now?
So AKS, I believe it spins up VMs and then it actually deploys VK as a pod. So virtual kubelet gets run as a pod on one of those workload VMs. So instead of running virtual kubelet as a pod on the workload cluster itself, this would just spin it up in Azure Container Instance instead.
Okay, thanks.
So this would make the cluster come up super fast, but what about like, is there any concern about when we're running workloads? Are they like slower or any restrictions or constraint on it?
So here's where it gets really cool. This stuff, it can run Windows containers or Linux containers. And it also is running on something a little bit lower than the VMs. It's actually closer to the actual fabric, actually closer to the hardware. So this can actually be a force multiplier for performance. The other part is, if we can start figuring out how to do this with our workload, we could also use it possibly, maybe in our control plane. The other really neat part is this could act as kind of a quick scale up buffer. So let's imagine you have spiky workloads and you have a base number of workload VMs. And this virtual node sits out there. So maybe you prioritize workload to your VMs and then you spike out to VK, spike out to the serverless. It gives you a lot more flexibility and quicker response time, right?
When we scale down to 0?
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. Complicated, but interesting.
Hopefully we can take away the complicated part, right? So if we can make it just as easy as like saying, hey, here's my resource, go spin this up and things just work, then what?
Is this like similar to CAPZ? Like, as I remember, there was an earlier issue where you wanted Azure container instances instead of VMs. Is this related to that?
Oh man, that's a really great question. Actually, we started going down the path of CAPZ, and we realized very quickly that we need privileged containers, or we need privileged access to the host at that point. Yeah, actually, Cloud Init does a bunch of stuff where it tries to get privileged access as well. And if we could make it exactly similar to CAPZ, that would have been super cool. That was kind of our original hope, but it turned out that was much. I think it's actually intractable with the infrastructure provider.
Have you seen the stuff about the virtual provider, like the CAPN, it's called, or whatever? Is that somehow related? It's like creates a cluster inside a cluster. It's not exactly the same, but I don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I'm not quite clear on, like, I'm so confused about the use case. Like, maybe I'm just not clever enough, but it's another abstraction layer down, and I just get really confused.
I don't know enough.
I think CAPN is about the nested CAPI is about having multiple management clusters sort of virtualized in a single management cluster. So I don't know the details, but roughly I think it's something like that.
Okay, so it's different.
Does anybody else have anything on this topic?
There was a question in chat from Dims.
Has the conformance for virtual kubelet enabled clusters have gotten better? This is a question from Dims.
That's a really good question. I don't know. I will reach out to folks and find out. That's definitely of concern.
Can you expand on that? What's the history there?
Are you asking me, Michelle? SSL?
Sure. Hi. Whoever wants to answer.
So TLDR is if you have a virtual kubelet enabled cluster and you run Sonoboy and see what happens, not all the tests pass. So that's a basic problem. So, but then there is this question about like, are those things that are failing really things that you need to worry about? And what are the things that are failing? So basically, it'll restrict the class of workloads that you can run under virtual kubelet. And there are certain features in Kubernetes that will not work for sure. So a long time ago, I remember asking, like, I think it was Michel Nourali, I think at that point, or maybe it was somebody else, about the conformance aspects and whether there is a running list of things that the virtual kubelet team maintains that they try to reduce over time. And I don't know what happened to that. If they're tracking progress, or if they've kind of like given up and said, this is what is possible, and whether it is documented. And so basically everything that you expect to run will not actually run well on the virtual kubelet. That's the bottom line there.
Got it. And does anyone know, for comparison, does CAPZ run conformance tests? And if so, does it pass them?
CAPZ?
CAPZ, sorry, Docker.
CAPZ.
The Docker provider.
I do not know the answer to that one.
Okay, thanks.
Is there anything else that anybody want to talk on this topic?
I will take that as a follow-up to explore conformance, as well as understand more about the team behind VK-ACI, and that's, well, it's within our team in Microsoft. So I will reach out and find out a little bit more information about where that's at, and report back. Thank you.
Thanks, David. I see no other topics in the doc. Is there anything else that anybody want to talk about? Okay, so I think that's it for today. Thanks to everybody for attending. Have a great day.
Thanks, Shyam.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.